Howdy doody buckaroonies. If you are a music producer, a beat maker, an indie artist, a podcaster, a lo-fi beat to study to, a relative of a person with face tattoos and really big dreams, or a real hustler trying to grind and sell me your awesome mixtape in a Wendy's parking lot, you have certainly heard of SoundCloud. SoundCloud has been around since way back in 2007, and in the last couple of years has really been in a steady nosedive, with the announcement of laying off 40% of its workers in 2017 to the now infamous cutoff date of December 9th, which introduced all these new ridiculous restrictions, and then was followed up by one of the funniest 180 whoopsie daisies that has come up in recent memory, which was really funny. I think it's fair to say that it is no secret that SoundCloud has become a bit of a dumpster fire anymore, with an ever more unfriendly algorithm making it hard for new and upcoming artists to break through the level of noise, with its relatively high subscription fees, and of course the amazing new monetization features that require you to pay in order to monetize your music, which is just a brilliant business move. With things like Spotify's recent announcement that you can get paid even less in order to receive a boost in their algorithm, or Tidal going apparently bankrupt and totally tits up behind closed doors, this has become the gun in the mouth, I think, of the streaming industry at this point, and has left a lot of independent artists and creators scrambling for a viable alternative, and not without good reason. And so enters Audius, the cool new kid on the block with a sick vape mod, a flat bill hat, and an awesome 97 Honda Accord that their mom gave them that they're going to fix up so they can drift home from their cool job at the mall to their apartment with awesome blacklight posters and super trippy sacred geometry prints so they can check their crypto wallet and tell you how the banks are evil, bro. In all seriousness though, today I wanted to share my examinations and opinions about Audius as the future of the streaming industry, the death of SoundCloud, and this new era of artists who are now navigating a kind of entirely new streaming paradigm. On top of that, I also wanted to hopefully answer some of the big questions you might have, like how did we get here and where might we be going in the future? What is Audius and how does it work? How does it stack up to its competition? Is Audius worth joining at all? And will Audius change the landscape of the music economy as we know it? This video has been a little bit over a month in the making, with a fair amount of research and over 20 pages of notes, as well as trying out the platform myself to try and get the full picture of it. And at this point, I'm still a bit conflicted, and I have a lot of questions of my own, and I'm curious to see where this platform will go in the future while retaining a healthy amount of skepticism. Before we get into all this though, have you made an Audius account? Why or why not? And if you have, what do you think of Audius so far? Let me know in the comments, because I'm very curious to hear other viewpoints on all of this. So back in the day, once piracy became somewhat of a mainstream thing and everyone was giving their computer a free cocktail of Trojans and malware to hear Bill Gates' apology rather than that hot new Fergie single, the music industry really started to shit its collective britches. This ushered in the era of things like iTunes and the sorely underrated Zune, with an answer to this big problem facing the music industry. We will make music so cheap that it's convenient to buy so that people don't have to buy a full album anymore for the handful of songs they actually want. And the label executives all high-fived, and the sun was shining once again. Now, eventually everyone got tired of this too, because charging 99 cents a pop for the hot new Lindsay Lohan and Lizzie McGuire singles to your mom's credit card was a bit tedious and really started to add up after a while, and everyone went back to stealing music. At this point, the music industry is really mad because they just finished wiping and changing their khakis before now having to shit their collective britches all over again, with the label executives screaming in the background, and come up with a new answer to the problem. Now, after a wipe, a change, and a long hard think, the music industry spit out a new answer to this problem. What if we make all music so cheap and so accessible that stealing it is just not worth the amount of effort and risk in comparison? And this brought on the era of the streaming services we all know and love, with things like Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, YouTube Music, and so on. Now, by this point, the days of the $20 CD were long dead and gone, and the days of the 99-cent single were but a glimmering headlight in the collective rear-view mirror of the music industry. And now we, as the artists, are forced to accept and thank the industry for the idea that we are now supposed to be happy with an ever-shrinking sliver of an exponentially smaller pie, and we have to maintain our creative output to make this pie even exist in the first place so that we, in turn, can then line the pockets of people like this guy. This is where Audius comes in with a new answer to all of this, after securing a cool $5.5 million in funding and getting some really big names to back the project. A decentralized music distribution platform with a focus on blockchain technology with an open and level playing field that truly puts the artists first. After dropping a bunch of their crypto tokens and drumming up some interest in the platform after a relatively long period of silence, Audius now has a bunch of artists and listeners flocking over to the platform in their browser to see what all the fuss is about. But before we talk about the how, what, and why of Audius, how did we get here? Back in the old times of underdog streaming services, I distinctly remember SoundClick being the next big thing, at least in the circles I was in, because Bulb, aka Misha Mansour, who later went on to found Periphery, really made a name for himself there. However, by the time I went to create a SoundClick account of my own, it was too little too late, because there were somewhere between 6 and 800 billion shitty gent artists with their brutal 8-string 101100 death chugs, and there was simply no room for someone like me. At this point, I was searching for an alternative, and around 2010, I discovered SoundCloud and made my first account. And in the old days, SoundCloud was actually pretty cool. It was relatively easy for me to make an account, gain some followers, and have some actual organic engagement with people, and build up a small fan base, which was pretty exciting. However, all good things must come to an end, and eventually SoundCloud started to kind of fall apart, and the creators of Audius noticed these problems as well. Over time, the algorithm changes made to the way SoundCloud works were deeply detrimental to their core user base of independent artists trying to get their music out there, and now it was really hard to break through the noise and expose your music to the world, which is what the platform was designed to do to begin with, which was kind of interesting. This is very similar to the way Facebook over time became total dog shit for bands and musicians. This, I think, is what really laid the groundwork for the kind of toxic platform that SoundCloud has become today for independent artists, with things like repost chains and labels and playlist curators and promoters and people who really believe in your music and can get other people to believe in it too for the low price of $100, who flood your inbox with spam messages every day. Over time, SoundCloud also made a lot of really questionable UI and UX choices, as well as adapting their model to be more of a business-first operation, which didn't really scale in a way that favored any artist without a massive budget behind them. Then, as the real nail in the coffin, SoundCloud, without any real warning, decided to change their streaming quality from an already terrible 128 kilobits per second to an absolutely abysmal 64 kilobits per second, while telling you it's effectively the same. This is the music equivalent of asking for a cheeseburger and being handed a day-old half-eaten chicken nugget. For being a platform that was the place for independent artists to be, to grow their music and grow their fan base and engage with fans and make a name for themselves without needing big labels and big money behind them, SoundCloud sure was doing a really shitty job of it. Since all this has really gone down, SoundCloud has been hanging on for dear life, needing funding from some of the artists who made a name for themselves on the platform and shuffling their business model around, throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. But all this really left a lot of the artists on the platform with a pretty sour taste in their mouth, eagerly awaiting anything that could wash it away with some minty freshness. This brings us to Audius, a new independent streaming platform offering a lot of really cool things with decentralized music distribution, a focus on blockchain technology, a bunch of flashy marketing videos, and all of the buzzword and hype marketing you could hope for a platform that will hopefully not be a giant pile of steaming garbage. Now, before everyone gets super hyped up and excited about what an innovative and fresh idea this is, Audius is actually not the first platform to do this. In fact, there was another platform called Potentium.io, which was based on pretty much the exact same idea with a few minor differences, which then died off in 2018 with a whimper, except for a few Twitter memes and retweets here and there. Audius was designed to put the independent creator first, which is a really pure and good idea, but much like the road to hell, all things are paved with good intentions. The founders of Audius designed this platform after seeing a lot of their musician and DJ friends really struggle on platforms like SoundCloud, while other people seem to break through no problem at all. So they decided to make their own and level the playing field for everyone, which is a really cool idea. Audius is a free platform, at least at the time of making this video, and offers artists a really high streaming quality platform, unlimited uploads, and a unique decentralized music distribution plan, which helps to avoid all of the ridiculous copyright things we all deal with now and again. Now, let's stop there and break this down for a minute, because you might be saying decentralized platforms sounds like a really techie thing and I'm a musician and I don't care, but you really should, and here's why. Decentralized distribution is a pretty unique idea where you upload your music and it is not hosted by Audius, but instead hosted by a bunch of node operators. This way your music is spread out there and these node operators keep the platform running behind the scenes without Audius ever having to put themselves liable for hosting content that may or may not infringe on anyone's copyright. This is a really awesome idea and is a gross oversimplification of how blockchain technology works. So you might be asking, who would want to host a node and what benefit is there to doing that? And that is where the unique idea of Audius comes in with this cryptocurrency. These node operators are incentivized by being rewarded with a bit of the Audius cryptocurrency, which theoretically in the future will be worth a lot of money, therefore making hosting a node a worthwhile endeavor. The other unique idea here is that because it's decentralized, if Audius itself collapsed as a company, these node operators would, in theory, continue to host the content forever in order to get their cool cryptocurrency stuff, meaning Audius lasts indefinitely, which is a pretty cool idea, but remains to be seen for obvious reasons. Now, one of the biggest reasons you as a musician or as a creator should care about all of this is something pretty simple: stupid copyright claims. Now, one of the co-founders of Audius, Roniel Rumberg, I hope I'm saying that right, claims that about 80% of content takedowns on copyright claims are not actually infringing on anyone's copyright. I'm sure that all of you have had this happen yourself at some point. I personally have been in a long-standing battle with YouTube to put my own music on my own channel because I keep claiming my own content, and it is an absolute nightmare to deal with. Since the distribution on Audius is decentralized, what this means in simple terms is if a copyright claim is filed, Audius can't throw away your music or totally deplatform you because they don't actually host the content themselves. As a quick example, let's say you're a DJ. If you upload a mix and one of those songs in the mix gets claimed, instead of having your entire mix taken down and risking losing your entire account, you could have the option to split a portion of the revenue of that mix with the copyright holder. However, if a dispute can't be resolved, and let's say the claimant says that they want this taken down no matter what they would then have to do is reach out to the independent node operators, and in theory this still protects your content because those laws may just not simply apply in all cases in the area where that node is hosted. Now, if someone is truly really pissed off and wants to claim something and they can't because there is no way to enforce these laws or they just don't exist in the area where the node is hosted, this then goes to Audius themselves, who are made up of a committee of people who will then decide on their own if it is actually genuinely infringing on someone's copyright. But before this can be done, both parties involved in this claim, in this case the DJ and the rights holder, have to put forward a small financial stake that they will then lose if it is determined to be frivolous and pointless, which is awesome. I love this idea. This, in my opinion, is one of the coolest things about Audius and one of the things that has me most excited about the platform. I don't know about you guys and where you live, but at least here in the US, our copyright laws, especially for the music industry, are super antiquated and ridiculous and really hard to deal with. As a matter of fact, to avoid all of this, I've actually started releasing some of my music under Creative Commons license just to avoid dealing with this altogether because it's just so stupid and ridiculous, but that is a whole nother discussion for a whole nother day. One of the other big points about Audius is its use of cryptocurrency, which just saw a large drop of tokens going out to independent creators who then freaked out and posted about how much money they just made from Audius, which was a pretty good marketing tactic to get people talking about it. So how does this cryptocurrency work in practice? As I mentioned earlier, the node operators receive some cryptocurrency for hosting a node, theoretically incentivizing them to host it because hopefully these coins are going to be worth a bunch of money in the future. From what I could gather, this is also how the artists will be paid exclusively, and there won't be any kind of actual cash value. You will instead be paid in this cryptocurrency, which is an interesting but pretty questionable choice in my opinion. I don't know about you guys, but I certainly can't call up my utility company and say, hey, my Chuck E. Cheese tokens are now worth 40% of what they were yesterday. so I can't pay my bills right now, but if you give me a week, it might just be worth something then. Now, before all the crypto kitties get their fingerless gloves and cool matrix glasses in a bunch, it's just a fact that cryptocurrency, at least currently, is just volatile by nature. As a matter of fact, in the time of making this video, the coin went from being worth 49 cents to only 9 cents. And that's a bit of a risky thing to bet your finances on. In the future, these coins could be worth a lot of money, or they could be worth nothing at all, which is the bet and the risk we are taking with this platform. Now, the question being, is that a bet worth taking? And personally, I don't really think this is the question on a lot of artists' minds. Instead, I would pose the idea that the question is much simpler. Is Audius worth joining? As a user experience, Audius is a bit interesting because it's still kind of under development and is a bit of a mixed bag. When I created my account, creating the account was easy, but uploading my music was a nightmare because the website was so slow. It took me almost 2 hours to upload only a handful of tracks, and then another hour to organize these in a playlist and reorder the tracks because things would just freeze or not save or just quit working altogether, which really skewed my perception of the experience as an artist joining this platform at this point in time. However, to their credit, it seems that Audius is making a lot of big moves to stabilize the platform and make it better, and in the last couple of days that I've used it, the website has been a lot better. It's still certainly not great, but it has improved from what I've seen so far. There are still some missing features, and it seems like there are some core components of Audius that just don't exist yet, but to their credit, Audius is still in development, and they are actively working on a lot of cool new ideas based on a lot of community feedback, which I think is really, really cool. I love that Audius is actually really trying to do something here and make it a platform worth experiencing. Audius also just recently got their mobile app out, which is pretty cool, and that was a big step in the right direction because this was missing before, which was a big misstep and a big oversight in my opinion. But I think this will really help to draw a lot of listeners to the platform rather than just artists creating an account trying to jump on a bandwagon. I think the big problem here with joining a new and unproven player in the streaming industry is that you have to rebuild your entire audience on a brand new platform that is relatively unheard of, which makes it harder than usual to build up an audience. As an example, my dad knows what Spotify is, and he even knows about SoundCloud, and the reason for this is simple. These platforms have been around for a very long time and have really made a name for themselves as kind of a household thing that everyone talks about and has heard of before. The problem here is that I don't think the average music consumer is going to download a whole new app and go through all the effort of installing and then making an account and finding artists and doing all that without something really being there to draw them in the first place, but that is kind of where Audius is at the moment. Now, will this change in the future? Some people really seem to think so, especially with the news of Audius securing over $5 million in funding. But to put this in perspective here, Spotify reported in 2019 spending $977 million on their marketing efforts. This is not to hold up Spotify as a shining beacon of light and what everything should be. It's actually not really that at all. I don't really care for Spotify. But it's just to show the kind of David versus Goliath situation Audius finds itself in against many of the big and established players. One of the other things of note as well is that Spotify and a lot of these other businesses actually just aren't profitable, and it doesn't seem that anyone has truly found the answer yet to how to make streaming work for everyone. So I will be interested to see how Audius adapts in order to answer this question. With all that said, that brings us to probably the big question on everyone's minds. Is Audius the new SoundCloud? I think to make this happen, it's going to take a lot of artists to move to Audius to draw their audience in. This might also mean that artists start exclusively releasing their music on Audius or premiering it there first to get their fans onto the platform to follow them. And in turn, I think Audius's bet here is that these people will then also branch out on the platform and discover some new artists, follow other artists they like, and then tell their friends about this cool new app, and then everything's just going to work out in the end. At some point in the future, Audius also plans to unveil some kind of paid option, which will then bring in revenue, with 90% going to the creators and 10% going to the node operators, and this will be in the form of the Audius cryptocurrency, at least from what I can understand. This, in theory, will make everyone happy because at this point, if the platform has taken off, this cryptocurrency will be worth a fair amount of money, and everyone is happy again. From what I've gathered on my experience and in my research here, I think that this is actually a really significant milestone for the music industry, and Audius, if things work out, is going to very significantly shape the landscape and the industry for independent artists and set a big precedent for how things are going to move in the future. So this brings us to the big question on everyone's mind. Is Audius actually worth joining? And I think, sure, I think it's a pretty unique and cool platform, and I think it's drummed up enough interest and grassroots marketing to make it worthwhile for you to build an account and start building your brand on the platform, on the ground floor, while it's hot, and hoping for the best. I myself made an account on Audius for the purpose of this video, but I actually kind of like it and I'm going to continue using it. But just like any other streaming or social media service, I'm going to have to rebuild my audience from zero and hope that it works out. With that in mind, I would encourage you to try it out, but also remain cautiously optimistic and not place all of your eggs in one basket. After all, for every Spotify and Tidal, there is a Napster or Friendster or MySpace that has collapsed in its wake. Audius, in all likelihood, will not make or break your music career. Instead, as an artist, it's just one small part of a much bigger picture, and you achieving your relative definition of success comes down to you putting in the effort to make that happen. In the end, you might make some money, you might get your music out to some new ears, you might make some fans, and you just might have a good time doing it. And in the end, I think that's what this is all about. And with that, we have arrived at the end of this video. What do you think of all of this? What do you think the future of the music streaming industry holds for independent creators? Did you make an Audius account? What have you thought of it so far? Why not pimp your handle down in the comments below? As always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to give it a like if you did, and why not subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys again soon.